Hello and welcome to another Time Travel Fiction Tuesday. At least I think it's Tuesday. I hope it's Tuesday. And we are on episode 8 of the Time Travel Fiction experience. And we are reading my first novel that I ever wrote, which is called Trespass, which is part of the Darkness Stone trilogy. And it is a tale of time travel and ancient secrets, with a little line that says, "Somewhere, sometime, the stone is waiting. Perhaps it's waiting for you." So, as I say, episode 8. Going to get through several chapters today, I believe, because they are very short. It seemed like a really great idea at the time. I've always loved short form fiction, I guess, and it was my way of incorporating it into a novel, was to have lots of short chapters. I know I'm not the first to do that by any means. Lots of people have done it, but I think it keeps it rolling along. So here we go. And as you know, if you've been following along, we are in various different time zones as we go. So if that's confusing you, please go back and listen from episode 1. You should be able to find it wherever you are watching or listening this, in your podcast app, YouTube, Substack, authormichaelcampling.substack.com. Okay. Trespass by Michael Campling, read by the author. Chapter 17, 3500 BC. Talon ducked into the undergrowth just in time. It was not yet dawn, but already Wiccan was crossing the pit floor. Talon held his breath, raised his head and watched. Wiccan approached the rock face, and then Talon gasped. The old man was clambering rapidly up the sheer slope like a man half his age. Soon Wiccan disappeared from view. Talon waited. When would Wiccan return? Talon rubbed a hand across his face. It was worth taking a risk. He broke cover and sprinted across the pit. He found the narrow steps easily. They were only partially hidden by the surrounding undergrowth. Talon reached out, ran his hands over the level surface of a step. It was cut into the rock, but how? He shook his head. It wasn't right. A voice from above. Wiccan was talking to himself. Talon backed away, listened. It sounded like Wiccan was on the move. Quickly, Talon turned, scanning the pit floor for hiding places. He chose a large boulder and dashed toward it, almost slipping as he threw himself down behind it. He took a deep breath. He'd done it. Carefully, he peered around the boulder's edge. Wiccan was climbing unsteadily down. Talon watched as Wiccan talked to his hut. Oh, sorry. Mistake already. Authenticity, folks. Talon watched as Wiccan walked to his hut. Soon, Talon smelled smoke. His stomach growled as he realized Wiccan was making a meal. Talon turned away, slumped back against the rock, and waited. In a while, Wiccan emerged from his hut, walked to the rock face, and busied himself. What was he doing? And who did he keep talking to? I should go back to Burlick, Talon thought, but I don't know what to tell him yet. If I wait, he might do something worth watching. Talon had the patience of a natural hunter. As Wiccan worked, Talon crept from shadow to shadow, watching, waiting. But he kept his distance. I don't like it, Talon thought. The way he talks, can he really be alone? Eventually, as the daylight faded, Wiccan stopped to forage for food and firewood and returned to his hut. I'll go closer now, Talon thought, while he's busy. He crept across the pit floor, picking his way carefully through the scattered stones. As he neared Wiccan's hut, he crouched, edged his way behind a clump of dense hawthorn. He could just see Wiccan. It looked as though the old man was struggling to light his fire, muttering away to himself. Talon was well hidden. He could move closer, close enough to hear what Wiccan was saying. Almost noiselessly, he crouched down, parted the lower branches and slid in between them. He hardly noticed the thorns scratching his arms. He'd known much worse. Inside the clump of bushes, there were very few branches, just the main trunks of each bush. They formed a dark space that made a perfect hiding place. Talon even had room to shift his position and stretch his legs a little. It had been a long day. Now Wiccan crouched over his pathetic attempt at a fire. The acrid smoke drifted into Talon's hiding place. It stung Talon's eyes, made them water. He blinked, wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. And when he looked back to Wiccan, oh no! The old man had jumped to his feet, was rushing toward him. Talon froze. There was no time to react. Wiccan reached among the branches, peered into the darkness within. I'm too close to him, Talon thought. I should have known better. But it was a shadowy hiding place. There was a chance Wiccan wouldn't see him if he kept absolutely still. No. Wiccan gasped in horror. It was too late. He'd been discovered. Talon tensed. His hunting instincts told him to strike, to try for a quick kill. But the old man was staring him in the eye, and nothing in Talon's life had prepared him for this moment. Who are you? What are you doing there? Wiccan called. There was no mistaking the fear in the old man's voice, but nevertheless his words chilled Talon to the core. Talon backed away, retreating into the gloom. 1 step, 2. Then in one motion he turned and crouched. He pushed his way through the branches, and then, as quickly as he dared, he slipped away. He heard the old man calling after him. What do you want? Why do you hide like a coward? Show yourself if you were a man. Sorry. Don't run, Talon thought. It's too noisy. He'll know where you are. He moved in among the trees and breathed more easily. The daylight was dwindling, the shadows were darkening, and the old man's frustrated cries were fading away behind him. He had escaped. Now he must return to find Burlick. He looked for the path he needed and spotted it easily enough. He started walking. Burlick, he thought, there's another problem. What would he tell him? How would he react if he knew that Talon had been seen? Better not to mention it. He would tell him about the secret way up the rock face. Wiccan must have some sort of hiding place up there. That should satisfy him. And there was nothing else worth talking about. If there was anything suspicious to see, then it must be in that hiding place. He'd tell Burlick to climb up there himself and look around while Wiccan was busy elsewhere. It would give him something to do, distract him from his murderous plans. And while you think about that, Talon muttered, I'll think of a way to stop you. It was all right. He had until tomorrow. He'd come back into the pit tomorrow. To clear my throat. Chapter 18, 2010. Where did I go wrong? The question nagged at me over and over as I barged through the undergrowth, hopelessly casting about for a glimpse of this supposed path. Of course, I'd never really been in with a chance in the first place, not with a girl like Callie. Oh well, I muttered to myself, at least you tried. And how was I to know she had a boyfriend? Dean, I thought bitterly. Sounded like a prop forward, whatever that means. I stood for a moment and looked around to get my bearings. The slope was steeper than I'd thought, and there was no sign whatsoever of a path. I looked back at my trail of trampled plants. It was clear to see where I had been, but there was no trace that anyone else had ever been there. So either I'd blundered off in completely the wrong direction, or... She lied to me, I whispered. I sighed and closed my eyes for a moment. She'd made a fool of me. Her whole story of professors and archaeological digs was just too far-fetched. Surely, if there'd been a dig in the quarry, I'd have heard about it. It would have come up at school, and my dad would definitely have talked about it. It was just around the corner from my house, for goodness sake. And protesting druids? That would have been on the local news. Druids, I said contemptuously. Give me a break. I trudged on up the slope. Apart from some spindly trees, the ferns and wild plants seemed to go on forever. A few druids, I thought, would brighten the place up. But then there was the stone. Callie hadn't made that up. And if she wasn't really on a dig, then what the hell was she doing there? I chewed my lip. I didn't have any answers. I grabbed hold of a tree trunk and rested for a second. I was starting to get hot and thirsty. I looked at my watch. It had been a long time since I'd had anything to eat or drink, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. I could bumble around for hours and never find the path. And I looked back down the slope. I could go back, I said. It would be a bit embarrassing, but I didn't have to admit I'd got lost. I could make up some excuse. Perhaps we could pretend that I'd never tried to chat her up. Things would go a bit better with Callie. Oh, sorry, I misread that. Perhaps if we could pretend that I'd never tried to chat her up, things would go a bit better with Callie. I'd certainly like to ask her a few more questions. I wanted to know more about that stone. I'd almost made up my mind to go back when I heard it. A girl's high-pitched scream suddenly cut short. It came from below me. It could only be Callie, and now I knew what I had to do. Okay, chapter 19 is very short. We might even get through 2 more. Chapter 19, we are back to 3500 BC.
"Where have you been?" Burlick snarled. "It's almost nightfall. I looked for you, but I couldn't find you. I've waited here all day."
Talon held out his arms toward Burlick, his palms open. He kept his voice calm and level. "Yes, and I have something important to tell you, but let's keep our voices down. We do not want to be overheard." Burlick narrowed his eyes and glared at the younger man. His lips twitched, but when he spoke, he lowered his voice to a muted growl.
"I was beginning to think the old man had done away with you."
"Well, as you see, I am unharmed," Talon said. "Sit down, and I'll tell you all that I've seen." Burlick didn't move. Talon forced a smile. "Burlick," he said, "sit down, my friend. We have much to talk about." Grudgingly, Burlick squatted on his haunches. Talon did the same, sitting close so that they could speak quietly. "For much of the time," Talon began, "Wiccan works on the stone. I wasn't close enough to see how he works. It wasn't worth the risk." Burlick snorted and shook his head, but Talon carried on. "But just as I got there, before it was even properly light, Wiccan climbed straight up the rock face." Burlick pulled a face. What nonsense. He opened his mouth to speak, but Talon didn't give him time. "He has a secret path cut into the rock. It's hard to explain, but it gives him footholds. It makes it easy for him to climb. I went closer to see for myself, and there's something else." Talon paused, but Burlick was not about to interrupt. He was waiting, open-mouthed. Talon continued. "Somewhere up there on the rock face, Wiccan has some sort of secret hiding place. He stayed there for some time, but I could not follow without being seen." He looked Burlick in the eye. "If only," he went on, "we could see inside Wiccan's hiding place."
"Ha!" Burlick said. "We can see for ourselves. If an old man can climb it, then I know I can."
"I suppose so," Talon said, doing his best to sound doubtful. "But would you follow Wiccan up the rock face? Would you risk being seen? The rock face is exposed, and he would have the advantage of height over you."
"Course not, you young fool. I'll wait until he's off being busy somewhere. You could keep an eye on him, and I'll climb up."
"Ah, that is a very good idea. You've thought of everything, Burlick."
"We'll go tomorrow, after daybreak."
"Yes," Talon said, "we'll go tomorrow." And he smiled to himself. That had been much easier than he'd thought. Chapter 20, back to 2010. Callie thrust her hands into the pockets of her dungarees. Alone again. Poor boy, she thought. I was a bit rough on him. He wasn't the worst boy who's ever asked me out. She sniffed. That title could belong to any one of a long list of creeps and idiots. She could still hear Jake thrashing around in the undergrowth somewhere above her. She liked to say sorry to him and to explain. In his own way, he'd been quite sweet, nice to talk to. It's just that he was a bit young. At least he'd made her laugh, but it was too late now. He wouldn't be back. She sighed. She needed cheering up. Her day was not going well. It had started out okay. The prof had been busy making phone calls up at the base camp, and Callie and the other volunteers had been given some free time. It had been Dean's idea they should go down to the ledge. He'd got what he called some chiba. Honestly, he was so uncool. Why on earth had she said that Dean was her boyfriend? She shuddered at the thought. It had just been the first name that had popped into her head. Callie had smoked a joint before. It wasn't really her sort of thing, but she wasn't going to say no and be the only one to stay behind. So they'd all sat on the ledge and passed the joint around. But this one had seemed much stronger than the one she tried before. She'd felt sick and dizzy. She'd muttered an excuse and stood up, but that had only made her head spin. Worried that she was going to throw up, she'd wandered away from the others over to the black stone. She'd felt faint, needed to sit down. They weren't supposed to sit on the stone, but she'd been past caring. The ground had swayed under her feet. She'd sat down, then lain down on the cold stone. The others had laughed at her, called her names, jeered. Their voices had echoed and faded. She'd closed her eyes, seen flashing lights, felt the ground spin, and had a terrible dream. She shook her head to get rid of the memory. It was best forgotten. And when she'd woken up, they'd all left her. How could they? She'd been alone and unconscious. Anything could have happened. She had a good mind to quit the dig. She wasn't sure she could face any of them ever again, but it would mean leaving the stone. And whatever she said to make light of it, she was genuinely fascinated. She walked across to it, leaned over, and ran her hand over the smooth surface. Was she imagining it, or did it make her fingertips tingle? For the second time, she sat on the edge of the stone. For a moment, she was lost in thought as she stroked the cold stone with the backs of her fingers. It really was beautiful. But there was no one to share this moment with. Jake understood, she thought. She'd seen it in his eyes. Sadly, she pulled her legs up and hugged her knees to her chest. She sighed, closed her eyes. Oh, damn it. She sighed, closed her eyes, and wished she was somewhere else. And I'll stop there. Most of the chapters are short, but, I think we've cracked on through several. So, that is Trespass, the first book in the Darkening Stone trilogy. So if you like a sort of long, complex, multi-layered plot to get into, I would suggest tackling the whole trilogy, because that is the way they were originally, envisioned, if that doesn't sound too arty-farty. I kind of always wanted there to be 3 books, which was ambitious considering I'd never written one. So my first book was the first of 3. And written some time ago. At the time, I think 2010 probably seemed very close, or possibly slightly in the future. And obviously things have moved on, mobile phones and stuff have changed, but there it is. Hope you feel like checking it out. Good place to find it. I think I've put it on my store already as an ebook at authormichaelcampling.com. And you might get it slightly cheaper there because it's my store. I'm an independent author, so it's an indie author store. So instead of giving money to a giant corporation, a giant tax dodging corporation, you can make sure that it goes to where it does the most good and supports an indie author in creating more books and stories, which I'm doing all the time. Been writing today, and publishing tasks as well. There's loads of stuff that I got to do. Some of it costs quite a bit of money, like book covers and editing and so on. So it's always good to have a direct financial support. Without that, I can't really justify keeping it going, working all day on stuff. So, okay, that would be great to have your support. Another thing is if you're over on Substack, you can upgrade to a pay level on there, which I don't give a load of extra stuff to, but I will send you a signed ebook via email, which is quite a cool thing, a personalized ebook, especially for you. And there's a lifetime discount as well if you pay for a year. And it just, again, that helps to keep stuff going. Otherwise, buying books is great. If you go over to authormichaelcampling.com and buy any of those books, you know that I will get almost all of the money, no retailer taking a cut, and you get your ebook straight away. So, for instance, my new crime thriller, The Cutting, is only available to buy. Well, actually, it's in 2 places as of yesterday. It's on my store and at one price, and in the Smashwords, it's in a special pre-sale off, which I only learned about yesterday, so I put it up on there. You can pre-order it at places like Kobo, which is a really great ebook retailer to use, and they have their Kobo Plus scheme, which my books also go into. Also worth checking out, because unlike Kindle Unlimited, Kobo Plus doesn't tie authors in to any exclusivity. So indie authors get tied in to only Amazon and nowhere else whatsoever if they put their books in Kindle Unlimited, which, is harsh on indie authors because we rely on getting our books out to readers, and we want to get our books out to readers where they are. I certainly do. So, but otherwise, Nook, Apple Books, lots of places. Not Google Play at the moment because it's such a hassle. I've tried to make that work. It's not easy. But my store is the best place because you'll get your book. It might be cheaper than you get it on the retailer. Plus, BookFunnel, who deliver your ebooks straight away, seamlessly, and will help you get it onto your e-reader or any device you choose, phone, tablet, whatever, computer. It's all good. They have a built-in e-reading service which they offer, and they automatically put all your ebooks into a library, which is a great kind of cloud backup for all your ebooks. So it doesn't matter where you go, whether you lose your e-reader or it bursts into flames or whatever, you will always have ebooks that you've bought that have been delivered via BookFunnel, because they back everything up for you. And all you need is your email address, and they'll say, here's all your books that you had on that email address. Really clever. Doesn't cost anything, doesn't require any action on your part, just does it. Just a clever idea. Okay, so thank you very much for listening and subscribing. If you haven't, subscribing is great, sharing is lovely, comments are great. YouTube podcasts, anywhere where you get your podcasts. Hope all the audio is okay for you. I do try and improve it a bit, so if you're watching the video, you might find that the audio quality is slightly better on the audio podcast version. If you're not sure where to look for all this stuff, authormichaelcampling.substack.com is great. I also have a website at michaelcampling.com, but not quite as frequently updated. There's stuff going up practically every day on the Substack. Okay, well, happy reading. Take care. Hope to see you again soon. Next podcast will be Thriller Fiction Thursday this week. And look after yourselves, and bye.